Okay, so there you see it. So this is going to cover the basics. We're not going to go into any of the deep details apart from on the media side of things. So the page editing will be later this afternoon. Right, we'll cover getting into Umbraco. You need to know how to sign in, what the address is and how to handle that. How to get around, what to click, that kind of stuff. We'll have a bit of a discussion of the elements of a web page, and part of that will be what are templates. And then we'll go into the media side of things. You'll see when we do the elements of a web page why that is. Getting all your media sorted out is a big part of making your life easier when you're working on Umbraco. Okay, all right, now let's see if I can share straight to my browser. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. Right, are you seeing it? Okay, fair enough. Right, so getting into Umbraco. Staffnet and the website are basically, it's the same piece of software, it's just installed on different machines because of the way Staffnet is actually connected into our internal network. So you'll see on the main website, that's the link. The critical bit is just that bit, so the gloucestershire.gov.uk/Umbraco. If you're ever uncertain of how to get into Umbraco, just go to the home page and literally after the UK, just type /Umbraco, UMBRACO, and that'll take you through to the login screen. You'll get these irritating happy, wonderful Wednesdays and manic Mondays and all of that kind of stuff. And what's really irritating, it's the same one every bloody week. So on the main website, you need to have a login. So we'll have given you a login, which will be your email address, and you'll have set up a password, and that takes you straight in. If you're set up as a Staffnet editor, what you'll have to do, there is a part for this in the website authors area of how to get into ADFS. You will log in once with this bit, and then ever afterwards, you'll sign in with ADFS. Now, if you're off-site like me, that's going to ask you for your network password. So you go in through a second password, but that's your Windows password, not a separate one. So you're actually linked in to the GCC directory. And the way you set yourself up is you log in the first time, and then up on the top left-hand corner, you'll see this little blob. In my case, it's got a picture. Most of you will just have your initial in there. Once you've logged in the first time, you just hit this button, link your ADFS account, and hopefully you'll get a success message. And that means that when you are coming into Umbraco, you can ignore all this rubbish and go straight in with ADFS. So it's as painless as getting into Staffnet. And you'll see once we're in, they're pretty much the same beast, slightly different stuff on the right-hand side here. But you've got a menu on the left-hand side here in the big black bar. You guys will only see content, media, and I can't see it on mine, search. So those three. If you've been given permission, you might see forms, and a very few other people will be granted access to some other areas. Not that one though, because it has God mode. That's restricted to just me and a couple of other people in the comms team for obvious reasons. Okay, when you're in here, getting around, I mean, clicking on the various menus is obvious. Getting around once you're inside a menu is done here. And it's these little triangular things that open the sites up. So whenever you need to navigate a level down, just click the triangle and you're in and around. Okay, if you click on something, it will open on the right-hand side. Depending on what you click, you may see in the bottom right here a save and publish button. That means you're in an area that you've got permission to edit. If you haven't got permission to edit, you'll only see the preview button. But you should, most of you at least, see most of this area here. The reason being is if you're an archives editor, and you want to link to somewhere inside the county website, you need to be able to see that page to be able to link to it properly. So we let you wander around everywhere, you just don't get to edit everywhere. Okay. There are two basic menus once you're in a tree. One is, you'll see these little three dots on the right hand side when you hover over something. If you click that, usually that's the create option. And depending on where you are and what you've clicked, the create options are presented to you. If you hover over the thing and right click, you'll get a secondary menu, or a main menu in fact, where it has the create on it, but a whole bunch of other options. These may vary for you, so you might not see all of these, but you should see things like rollback and sort. You'll probably see public access as well. And there are reasons for that, but some of these other ones you may not see, like center translation. If you ever get to the point where this thing looks a little bit messy, if you just right click somewhere at the top here and hit reload, it'll take all the mess off on the left hand side and rebuild the tree from scratch again. Okay, so that's navigating around here. It's the same if you go into the media area, so we're in the content, or I sometimes hear me refer to this as the orange tree. The media tree is similar in that you've got those little triangles. I sometimes again refer to this as the black tree. And again, if I right click here, you'll see you get a main menu which includes create. If I click the three little dots, I get the create menu, and what's offered to create is context sensitive, so it knows I can only create files and folders and images here because I'm in the media tree. When I'm in here and I'm on the main home page, if I hit create, I get a shed load of things I can create. Okay, right, now if we go to a web page, let's go to our home page. Okay, this is a typical home page. It's got a bunch of elements on it. Now you build the web page by creating these elements. Some of these are created separately, like these three things at the top here. These are what are called notices. You create them somewhere and you add them to the web page. So if somebody's gone to the home page here and said, I want this notice, and this notice to appear, and they appear while they're currently in play. So you can create this notice and say, I only want it to appear for a certain period of time. When you add it to the page, if it's in that period, it'll appear on the page. When the date's expired, it'll just disappear by itself. Further down the page, you'll see some popular buttons. This used to be a bun fight. This was actually quite a lot of buttons at one point. And then we had a look and said, well, it's pointless having so many buttons there because then people can't tell what's going on. So this is literally the top 3 or 4. So it's everybody wants to know how to get a job here. That's the school closures. This is the term dates. And that's how to report a pothole, report an issue. You know, bland language, it's report a pothole, that's where everybody goes. Okay, and then a bit further down, this is what we used to call the top tasks. It was done by focus groups. That's it's got a bad rep, focus groups, but basically what we did, or what somebody did for us on our behalf, is they sat people down and said, you know, here's a bunch of activities that a council gets up to. Can you sort them into some kind of logical groups? And these were the groups they came up with and the titles they gave them. So this wasn't picked by some officer in the council. This was picked by real human beings out in the world. And then you'll see down at the bottom here, there's some sort of promotional section where you can add these little teasers, we call them. And then there's a footer at the bottom. Again, you can build all of this. When you go down a level, if we go down into births, marriages and deaths, you can see here one of the drawbacks of those notices. You can put a notice at the top of the page and you can make it huge. So we've got this notice which is basically telling you everything's shut, and something else about ceremonies. And this is the actual page. So what registration have done is shoved everything out of the way to put these enormous notices up. Now, while they shut down, that's probably not a bad thing. We need to be starting to take these off as we open up so people can get back down to this area here. Okay. And the reason we did this, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. This is basically the same sort of format as the gov.uk website. Now, these guys have got squillions to spend on designing websites. So having a popular area, having the top tasks in the middle here, and having some teasers further down, it all follows the same sort of logic as gov.uk came to. So we were on the right track once we saw what they were doing. And if you go down into births, marriages and deaths, you'll see the same sort of carry on. My sharing bar is in the way. You'll see the same sort of carry on here. So we've got a menu on the left-hand side here, and then a menu starts building itself going to the right. Some of these menu items have a little arrow on, and they'll have a sub-menu. Oh, God, I'm going to scroll past this whole thing to see it. Okay, and you can see the sub-menu there. And that was basically the same sort of idea as this. So their menus slide about a bit. I think they're looking at doing that for ours, but anyway, that's basically why we built the thing this way. We just ripped off the idea from gov.uk. Now these things are self-building. So if we go back to our main web page, you will see on the Gloucestershire County Council section, health and social care, births, marriages and deaths. And if I open that up, you'll see register of birth, register of death. And if we look at that, so health and social care, register of births, marriages and deaths, register of birth, register of death. And if we open registration offices, wherever that is, that's that one, you'll see there's a sub-menu there, which follows this one. So these all build themselves, and they use what's called, you can see these icons here are telling you what kind of template's in use. So that 9 blobs is landing level 1, we call it. This one with subsections is landing level 2. And they all do, whoops, wherever it is, that sort of thing. So that's what we mean when we talk about templates. By positioning these articles, these pages, the way they are, and using templates in certain places, we get a kind of self-building site that goes down to at least this level. The rest of these templates are, that one is a generic template because it's just got the blank thing there. And if we look at that, which one was it? Register of birth. And you'll see it's got no, when we go back to that one, I hate this thing. It's got no arrow to the right. So there's nothing, it's not a template that can handle a submenu. And when you go into it, I really shouldn't have used registration as an example. You can see this is a standard sort of page. Okay. If I close that down, another standard sort of page is this one. This is the school term dates. So you can see on a typical page, you've got a bunch of stuff. We've got the same notice at the top here that we had on the home page, but not some of those other ones. So this one is a notice that we've set up to show on the whole site. So we've set it at homepage level and said, show it on every page below that, and you will see wherever you go, you get this notice. Then this is a crumb trail, we call it. That's building itself based on where your page is in the system. So this gives you some idea of where you are. It also allows you to navigate back. So if I clicked that, I would go into education and learning. Okay, and there's term dates. You can see we went to education and learning. We're going back to term dates now. This is the page title. So that's the main title on the page. And you can see it's the biggest and boldest, and it's the only one of its level. Well, it's got a weird camel case effect there. So that should be either all capitals or no capitals. Our house style is to have a single capital at the beginning, and then the rest of the title should be lowercase. So I'll change that in a minute and you can see me do it. Then we've got some subtitles in the middle of the page. I don't know if there's any further down. So that's the only second level title. I'll come back to this. And then you can see there's some more subtitles or sub-subtitles as you get further down. And then the page is basically built up of some whizzy bits, which is like this calendar. We're in the middle of school holidays, so nothing on it. But if you went, hopefully, no, it looks like we have, oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, we've put holidays, not to school days. All right, so we've got kind of a reverse approach. We'll show you when not to go to school rather than when to go to school. But anyway, it's a whizzy thing. And I'll show you how to put this in this afternoon if you're with me. Then the rest of the page is just effectively, on this one, text. So that text is like that, plain text. Some of it's bold. If you're going to use bold, keep it to a sort of reasonable level. Making everything bold just means none of this stands out. And then the rest of it is text that's been changed to do something. So that's a link. And that links off to the Google Calendar in this case. And these are links to, in this case, PDFs. And in this case, they've switched the term dates for some reason to Excel spreadsheets. But previously they used to use Word documents for the schools to download and fiddle with. Yeah. And then on the right-hand side, there are some other bits that you've added on. These are for also of interest, so secondary interest. All of the main text, the main stuff should be on the left-hand side in the main article text in the body. These are you might also be interested in. The reason I say might also be interested in is stuff on the right-hand side is not in people's eye line, which tends to be top left, reading down the page. And then they sometimes scan across to the right-hand side. So don't rely on anything on the right-hand side being there for somebody that you need to see it. If you need them to see it, put it over here. This is why we have all these term dates PDFs on the left-hand side in the main body, not in a little box on the right-hand side with a bit of a note here that says, please download from the right-hand side the, that was typical of a few years back when we had a different site. So you will occasionally see wording like that. Don't do it. Put all of the stuff that's important in the main body of the text. Okay? So there's basically two kinds of link. In fact, there's three, but there's this one, which goes off to a web page. In this case, it's an external web page. But you can also have links to internal web pages like that one. So that's on the gloucestershire.gov.uk website. So these, although these are just plain web links, the way you link them is slightly different, and we'll see that later. But they are just links to other web pages. And then you've got these sorts of links, which are download links or document links. And these have to link to something that we've already uploaded to the system. So the system has to have this in place. You can't, it needs to be said because some people might make the assumption, but you cannot link to your S drive, for example. Have something on the S drive that you then link to on the website. That may come at some point in the future because, things move on. We've got more capable software potentially coming where you can have things that are, because what will happen is that software will effectively create one sort of massive website, some of which will be available to the public. So it is possible that, a few years or a year or two down the line, these documents will not need to be uploaded to the web system. They will be available from the main file system, and you'll be able to just connect to them from there. But for now, these have to be on our web server. Okay. I think I've explained, you can see from the layout here, this is a certain type of template. If I try, I'm not sure I can find any. In fact, I'm going to do a sneaky. Let's do that. So if we go through births, marriages, and deaths. Oh no, I should have remembered that. Registration officers and contact details. And open one of these. These are what are called place templates. This is really starting to annoy me. And you can see the effective layout is the same, body text on the left-hand side, but the bits on the right are different. So there's a map in there showing you where Cheltenham Register Office is. And then there's a table of opening times. And then you get onto those familiar, those sort of interesting links. So this is a slightly different template. There are different things that you'd have to input into it to get this address on. And there's another way of creating the map. But you don't have to do any of this manually. It's all done by just filling in boxes. Okay. Let's quickly just have, I'm not going to do it in any depth, like I say, but if we go back to the Cheltenham one there. So I've just clicked on there and it opens it on the right-hand side. And you'll see what I mean by filling in boxes. So this is the body text. Because it's the most important thing, it's the primary tab here. It's the one that opens when you open the web page. And then all of the rest of the stuff is across the top here. So you can see page info where you can put, if I go back to there, that grey box comes from here where it says page description. You can set a page owner, so Lisa Chatterjee owns this page, and that's for various reasons. Then on the right hand side, where you've put those boxes, that's how you do those. There's how you create the maps. This is the notices bit. So that's those combined COVID notices from registration that have got the awful deep notices on. We can put a countdown timer on. There's the opening times thing. So you just set that up there. If you do have to close, there's a tab where you can put a closure notice. So you could add Christmas here and things like that. We can fiddle around with how Google sees the page. Well, not on this one, but anyway. Navigation, we could hide it from navigation. Remember I said those menus, wherever we are, these menus build themselves. You can, if you wanted to, put a page in and say, well, don't show yourself on there. And there's a bunch of other things here. SEO, this is how Google sees it, sorry. And then just some information about the page. Importantly, the link to the page. This shows you who created it. If I wanted to see the complete audit trail, it's all there. I can have a look at going way back to when it was first published on the 8th of November and see who did something to it. I can't see what they did, at least not on this view. And there are other things on the right-hand click that, like the rollback. So if somebody made a mistake, I can roll back to a version previous. One of the things you can do on rollback as well is you can see the diff, as they call it. That shows you green and red what changes were made. Not a lot on this one, so the tweaks were very, very minor, but anyway. Okay, so there's a bunch of other things you can do there. And the templates that you can use are controlled by where you're using them. So remember I said click the 3 dots. So when I try and create something under there, the list is relatively long. If I try and create something under here, all I can create is a generic content page. So the system controls what you can create dependent on where you're trying to create it. For example, you see this is a landing level 2. I don't get to put a landing level 2 underneath a landing level 2 because it just doesn't work as part of the system. So these work in tandem. That's landing level 1, that's landing level 2. I can create landing level 2 wherever it is from a landing level 1, but I can't create it at a lower level. So don't worry about putting the wrong thing in the wrong place. If you're going to put events in, for example, There's an old event system. All you can add in events is event content. Okay. And then events, if we looked at an events page, have a bunch of other different tabs across the top here and a way of setting the event up. So none of it is you having to create pages and do any fanciness. You just got to figure out how to fill these boxes in. And sometimes that can be a little bit puzzling if we look for, where's the news? Oh, somewhere here there's news. There it is. So if we look at one of these, let's look at July. It's got a bunch of press releases below it. And this page, if I can find it, only works if, where is it? There. If I put a number in there, by default there's no number in there. And if you don't put a number in there, it doesn't show the children. And that's one of those freaky little things that happens where you create something, you do something, then you go preview it, and nothing's worked. It's because you haven't found one of these little boxes. So if you are experimenting, for example, with events, that's another one of those where you have to, wherever it is, add the events. Well, I can't find it now. But anyway, there's another thing that you have to create under an event, but I've lost it. Okay, so that's templates, that's how the site's built. If you want to practice, what I plan to do is to create, we've got a put your training stuff here somewhere. There you go, that's a play area. But I think we probably need a training area, and I'm going to add you guys to it. So there'll be just a home page and you can play to your heart's content while you practice. Right, now then. The important bit that we need to cover this morning that leads into this afternoon is how we deal with media. Remember, we're talking about to the turn down. We're talking about things that you're using on web pages. So like these PDFs, like these Word documents. They all need to be in here somewhere before you can work with them. So you'll see, let me go into Staffnet. If I try and don't worry about what I'm doing, if I try and add a link and say I want to link to media, I'm linking to stuff that is in this media tree. All right, so I've got to have something in here for it to work. There is a fallback in that I can upload it. So if I'm in public facing departments, I click that, I get an upload button, but it's preferable because of the restrictions in here for you to put everything in the media tree first. So get it all sorted, get it all updated, get it all organized, and then when you're in the orange tree, you know that your stuff is there. Okay. So let's go into the testing folder. There we go, there's the test folder. So, ooh, look, my least favorite occurrence, somebody's dropping stuff in the root directory. If you do go to put stuff in media and you're not restricted to a folder, please don't put stuff in the root area. This is highways. So they've put it in road maintenance, surface dressing. All that'll happen is I'll move it from here to highways, road maintenance. Wherever it is. Okay, we'll stick it in there. I'll just randomly move it. So it's going to move, or if I go in there and it says no content, and it was uploaded a week or two ago, I will delete it. So there's version 14, still not in use. Only updated yesterday, So I'll leave it around for a while, but please don't put stuff in the root directory. This is the equivalent of putting every file you create on your desktop. Okay. There are folders for every subsite. So if you're working in archives, there should be Gloucestershire Archives, maybe there it is. So there's a folder for Gloucestershire Archives. You would expect them to be fairly well organised. Not as organised as maybe they should be, but anyway. So, now where's testing? Testing folder, there it is. Okay. Now in here, we can create either another folder, like these things. So again, I'd recommend you be reasonably organised with your stuff, but don't overdo the folders, because of course when you're trying to find things, it does make life a little bit more difficult if you're walking up and down a folder tree. But don't dump everything just in the root directory, it just makes that list very long. So I'm not going to create a folder. In this case, I'm going to create a file. Okay, so when I create a file, I've got to give it a name, and then I can browse for whatever it is. Let's find something that's not Emergency Assistant Grants Form. That's something that we did the other day. Okay, and it will wait to upload it, and then the save button down in the bottom right hand corner, if I hit save, it spins for a little while, not for too long I hope, and there it is, it's uploaded. And you'll see on the left hand side it puts it in at the bottom here. So that's my document, and this is what you would do if you were creating a new document, if you wanted to upload a new document. What you can also do, if you want to upload them in bulk, is let's create a folder, and I'll just call it bulk. Now, irritatingly, for my slightly OCD approach, it puts the folder at the bottom. I prefer folders to be at the top of any menu tree. So just to overcome my prejudices, I'm going to sort that, grab it and drag it up. You have to do it in sections because you can't drag above the top. But anyway, you should get to the top. Unless you're very messy, it shouldn't be a long drag. And it should appear up the top here. If it doesn't appear at the top there, you can right click here and reload. And it'll rebuild the tree here. So there's a bulk folder. Now see, when you've selected a folder, make sure you know which folder you've selected by looking at its name at the top here. It's quite easy to click on something and not realise where you are. So click on the correct folder. You've now got a drop tree. Now I'm on a Mac, so this is going to look slightly weird to you. But from my file manager, I could, let's sort them all by type, so I can find some PDFs. Oh, there's some Word documents. What? I can select the documents that I want to put on the system, and I can just drag them in and drop them on this, and it will upload them. It gives them the name, the title is the name of the file, so sometimes it can be slightly weird titles. So what you would have to do if you use drag and drop is you would have to post-process, so to speak, to get these things into some kind of not weird titles. But it is, if you're doing a lot of stuff and your file names are reasonably logical, it's a quick way to get things on. In the early days, you'll see at the top here, I think, there's dumps. These were the files taken off the old system and just dropped into the new system. And we were dropping them hundreds at a time. Again, if you look in the dump, you'll see some very strange file names. So most of them not too bad, but You know, we didn't go and post-process because we were doing them hundreds of times. Okay, so that's a bulk drag and drop.
Staring out the window.
And I'm going to delete them. No, we'll leave them there for now. Okay, so I've got a file here that I've created by using file create, and I've got a folder with the bulk actions in. I want to put this in the same folder. If I can either right click it, the menu that comes up here, or some of you may have noticed on the top right there is an actions menu. It's the same thing. So if I right click there, or if I click here, I get the same options. So I can move this into the testing bulk folder. When I click on the folder, I get a little tick, ready to move. Okay, name was moved to bulk, and you'll see it's down here. Okay. So I can drag and drop stuff in here. I can create by using the 3 dots. And it's very simple to move stuff around so that I can organize myself. If I click on a folder on the right-hand side, I get a list of things in the folder. Now, if I click here, see, I can start selecting. Okay. Now, it's quite easy to select stuff here and assume that that actions menu, if I say delete, is going to delete these files. It isn't. The action here is on this folder here. So if I delete, I'm going to delete this entire testing folder. Be very careful of that. The menu that applies to the ticks is here, and the only option you've got on the menu is to move. So I can move that stuff into the testing folder, bulk. And you'll see those two they might still appear here, but they haven't moved over to the bulk folder. So the guest Wi-Fi instructions are now in there. Okay. So I'd recommend you do a little bit of this, a little bit of housekeeping, getting your stuff in order, making sure everything is where you need it to be. Okay. Now, so that's how to get stuff in. That's how to edit stuff. Let's create an image, by the way, just so you see the difference between a file and an image.
Sweet.
Forgot to do that. So if we create an image, I can, the drop here, I can drop it on, or I can just click to upload it. So I can find an image that is worth uploading. Most of the stuff here is screenshots. I've got any nice pictures. No, I'm not going to upload my backup verification codes for you, so don't get too excited. Let's try that one. It looks like an image. It's not too big. Yeah, don't know what the hell it is, but anyway, it's an image of something. Now that's uploaded the image. I haven't given it a title yet. So by creating an image, I get the option to create a title. Don't know who they are, so I'll just call it random people. If I just click save, I get an image that's been uploaded. You can see the size of it here. It's 2000 pixels wide and 1000 pixels high. It's a JPEG and it's 284K or thereabouts. On the right-hand side, you'll see various versions of it. Now, these versions are used in certain places. And if we use that one, that's a good example of one that's been cropped to somewhere maybe where we didn't want it cropped to. Okay, and you can see, you're just going to see his nose and his forehead. That's because this little blue dot is the focus dot. So if this guy is the focus of this picture, if I drop that blue dot on his nose, you should see this thing. Go to a better crop. So it's more focused on his nose rather than on his forehead. At least that should be the case. Okay, and if I move the blue dot around and you watch on the right hand side, you'll see, if I stick it on that guy's bum, you'll see it focuses on the guy's bum. So you stick this on the area that you're focused on. It looks like I've frozen that one by, let's take undo edits off. It's not moving around for that one. That one is stuck. Okay, but you'll see the rest of them. When I move the blue dot around, the rest of these change. So that's the thing to remember if you're putting an image on. So let's say this image was a picture of a dog handler and his dog. What you would have to decide is who's the focus of the picture. If it's hero dog handler with dog, you'd put the dot on the hot dog handler's nose. If it's hero dog with handler, then you'd put the dot on the dog's nose. And all of these crops would crop to the dog or the handler. Okay. So we've saved an image that we can use later. We'll come back to that one. When it comes to things like this, or let's say that one, they can be updated at a later date. Now, when you've added this to a page, what you need to do, if the document gets updated, let's go back to term dates, and I'll use term dates as an example, because you'll see that one says corrected June 2020. So we uploaded this document whenever we were given it, and then sometime in June somebody fixed it, and we've uploaded a new version of it. But what we didn't do is we didn't upload the new version into here and then go to every page we think that we linked it from and try and make links to the new version from there. What we did, and don't be too scared when you see what goes on, it is relatively simple, the concept, and we've got a training area where you can go and review how to do it. So I just right-click that link, look for something that says inspect element, and I get a bunch of code down at the bottom here. Now, helpfully, it's highlighted the bit that I'm interested in, this bit. So that school term date is this bit of code here. Inside this bit of code here is a thing that says data ID and a number. That number 59078 is actually key to the finding the thing. So if I copy that and go back here and go in the search and put 59078, you see it finds me my school term dates. So this is an index number, and helpfully the system shows you the index number in the code. So you just need to know how to find it. Right click, inspect element, it shows you the code that you're interested in, and in this case it's 44278. So I could change that to 44278. And whiz bang, I find the document that I'm looking for. I click it, it'll walk me down here into the term dates folder, and there's the document that I'm interested in. Okay. If I'm going to update it, all I need to do is to hit the browse button. I'm going to do that in the test folder so I don't damage the, if I can find the bloody test folder. It closed itself. It has, there we go, testing folder, bulk. So let's assume that on a page I found a thing with the ID 66456. So that's on the info tab. Okay. If I stick 66456 in, I'll find this thing. Click on it, walks me down here and opens it on the right hand side. What I need to do is to say, right, that's an out of date one, that appendix 2 C19 blah 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 business. That's the out of date version of the card. I need to find the new version of the card. So I just click the browse button and go to find, where's the new version of the card? Find a PDF, a random PDF. It doesn't have any personal information in it. Okay, so there's the new version, let's say. So I'm going to be replacing this file with this file. So I just click open. It may say something slightly different on a Windows machine. And you'll see what happens down here. I get the new version of the file stacked, effectively queued, waiting to replace that one, to update that one. When I hit the save button, there you go. So that plan file is now the file that this thing refers to. It's still got the same index number, 64456, this one, but it's a new file. And the beauty of doing it that way is if I update this one and then save it, this link here, if I hover, let's get rid of that. If I hover over that, you see on the bottom left-hand corner, it gives you that link to 2096099 school term dates, blah, blah. That link will update itself automatically to, if it had said 2021 revised, let's say, .pdf, that will have all updated itself automatically. So it's quite important as a concept to get your head round how to update things as opposed to how to add things. You can add things to folders, but when it comes to updating, you open the thing that you need to update and you use that browse button to find the new file and you update it that way. Does that make sense to everyone? Is anybody confused there? You just stop, because it is quite an important point. No, I don't see any hands up. I don't hear anybody going, ah. Okay. And that second thing there, that about right-clicking, that's also a really good tool. So all of the browsers have it. Right-click, inspect element. It may pop up on the right-hand side or it might pop up on the bottom, but it's this bit of code that it highlights and the data ID. So that bit there and that number, that's the key thing. So 44278, I copy that just to hammer the point home, and there it is. When I click it, it's open on the right-hand side here. It's also should be highlighted on the left. So if I scroll up and there it is, highlighted on the left-hand side, open on the right-hand side. Hit browse, find the new one, job's done, it's updated. Okay, now as I said, that's all available in a training area. So if I just pause for a moment to show you this. So again, if you go to the home page and after the UK hit /website -authors, I think I put this in the news item that I sent out. We've got this section here of how to get a little bit of self-help for Umbraco. Okay. There's our email address, so you can send us a please help. We do, or we should, set up passwords for ourselves that are following this password policy. So we've added it to the page just to make sure that you understand that, you know, if you create a poor password and somebody guesses it, they can get in and edit your part of the website. We set you up, generally speaking, with only access to the area that you need to edit. So you're going to allow somebody in to damage the area that you're responsible for. So just set up reasonable passwords. Password 1234 is not acceptable. Umbraco themselves have a couple of areas that you might be interested in. So there's if I open that, I can't see it because there's a sharing bar that's hiding my browser. There it is. Now these, this is the editor's manual. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit to get to these. So that's the content editor's manual. Now when we get to this afternoon and we're showing you how to edit stuff, this is the online version of that manual. Then this one, this is the video, has got some basics videos. So here's how to do various things. And this video walks you around the layout and terminology and structure of websites and things like that. So, and they tend to be, what's this one, 2 minutes 30 long. They tend to be very, very short. So sometimes worth a watch if you've got a bit of spare time. Okay, this is the one that you might find more interesting. Okay, so that's the self-help bit from Umbraco themselves. In the good old days, when we used to do face-to-face training in training rooms and take on, 5 or 6 people at a time, we used to use slides. You can have a spin through them. They might be difficult for you to understand, but there are bits in there to do with things like accessibility and how to write a web page and that kind of stuff that you might find of interest. Website best practices, that's got things in about, keep it short, keep it simple, right for basically an 11-year-old. And there are reasons for that. And then there's some bits on the advanced features. Now, this is the bit you might find interesting, the how-to. There's the bit about ADFS. So remember I said how to, you log in first with your email, find your blob, click the ADFS account, and then when you come to log back in, you should be able to use the blue button. Adding media to the library, which we just covered. We haven't covered adding media to the page, that we'll do this afternoon. And then this bit is the finding and updating the media. So showing you a piece of media you want to update. You can, if there's a keyword that's reasonably uncommon, you can probably find it by doing the search, but then it goes on to inspect element, finding the data ID and sticking that data ID in the search and just getting the thing that you're interested in. Okay, and goes on to explain about choosing the file. So choose file on Windows. On my machine it says browse, and then hitting save to update it. Okay. What I didn't cover when I went to update is content usage bit. In the content usage, the only reason you might need to go and edit anything other than the media item itself is, remember on that term dates page, when I edited that 2021 one, that 2021 document, I'd added a bit of text to say it was corrected in June. So it tells you on there, go to the content usage and check the pages that it's in use on, because you might need to go, I've got Policy X version 1 and I've uploaded that. I now get Policy X version 1.1. If I've put in text on the web page that it's version 1, I would need to go to that web page to say version 1.1, or last updated December 2018. Then I would have to go to the web page and say last updated August 2020. You'll notice if you see web pages I've created, I tend to avoid version numbers and last updated times because it just means more work going back and changing all the text. But the system can't change the text for you, that you've created that text. So if you put a date in it or a version number in it, you're responsible for going to the content tab and going to each of these pages and making the update with the new version information. Okay, so we have gone through basically everything that I had on the agenda for this morning. So a quick spin round how to navigate using these things. The difference between clicking on and right-clicking, clicking the 3 blobs. We'll come to it this afternoon, but templates have different sets of tabs across the top here. You'll find a lot of them are common, like everything has got an info tab. But not everything will have a Google Analytics tab. That's reserved for home pages. Not everything will have some of the other stuff like alternative layout. So depending on where you are, those tabs change. Like I say, everything's got an info tab. Everything has a page info tab. Everything else is dependent. We've done updated media items in here, and I've hammered time and time again about using the browse button. We've covered how to find it by using that data ID thing. So I think that's everything I really had planned for this morning. Does anybody have any questions? If I come off shared screen, just give us a sec, and I stop sharing. There I am. I'm back in the room. Oh, so Andy has got his hand up.
Oh, that was, hang on.
Or were you just experimenting?
Hang on. Oh, God. Hang on. Oh.
No?
No.
Okay, did you get a good idea of what you need to of the basics from that? So how to log in, how to move around, how to create things, what sort of menus are available, you know, the difference between right-click and three blobs and things like that. And I hope I hammered home that point about updating media, not adding new media. I can't emphasize enough the fact that the media folder, media tree, is probably the messiest area of the site. And because we share authorship, it's very easy, you know, I go in and I add policy X. Somebody else goes and edits a page slightly off to one. Well, it's possible that we're editing in the education area on the main site and somebody's using the same document on the SchoolsNet site, and you get two documents uploaded. You get one uploaded by us on education, you get another one uploaded by somebody in the SchoolsNet system. And we had yesterday, I was trying to update something, and there were 8 different versions of it. 7 of them, of course, well, actually, it wasn't. 6 were unconnected. 2 were connected to web pages. 1 was the incorrect version connected to a web page that then, of course, showed the incorrect version. 1 was the correct version connected to 2 or 3 web pages. So, and irritatingly, all of those documents were in the same folder. So whoever done it could see the previous version but didn't bother to update it, or maybe didn't know how to. And having uploaded a new version, left the old one lying around. If you do that, Google still knows it's there. So we do fairly often get calls from people saying, I've just updated my document, but when I go to search for it, there's 3 versions on Google. And when I click on the wrong version, yeah, I can still get to it. And the problem with that is that Google doesn't rank the new stuff above the old stuff because the old stuff's had more time to embed itself. So what will tend to happen is your old document's at the top of the list and the new one is somewhere further down. Or maybe if you've just updated it today, it won't even be on Google's radar. It takes Google anything from a couple of days to a week to work its way through every site on the internet and re-index them. So, you know, make sure when you update stuff, update it using the system I've shown you. If you find out-of-date stuff that's on there, which you can see from that content tab, if it says content not in use and it's been around for months, delete it. Don't leave stuff lying around in the media folders if you can help it.
Nigel, it's Jackie. I think that was my website that you were just referring to with the 8 different documents.
Was that the education, whatever? No,
that was the
safeguarding.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, you've had about.
I know where to find it all, so I'll just go through and delete everything that's out of date.
You've had about 4 million authors. That seems to be your problem. You know, every time somebody just gets themselves organised, they move on, and somebody else sod picks it up.
I think none of us have had any real proper training, so this has been really useful today because I've just got shown what to do by a temp that was doing it before, and she was only there for a few months. So
that's pretty common. It's very common for you get recruited, and the boss will say, "Oh, the web is part of your work."
Yeah.
They don't tell you how to get trained, or they throw stuff at you, or you use it about 5 minutes a year. You know, it's understandable that these things get messy, but it's one reason why I bang on about it is if you find stuff lying around, it's been lying around forever, it's not connected to a web page, delete it. The place to keep stuff is on the S drives or in any document repositories. You shouldn't put stuff on our system and expect it to stay there as a kind of historical document. If it's not needed, ditch it, chuck it. Okay. Right, does anybody else have any lingering questions, or should we just leave it until we get into the really deep stuff this afternoon? I'm just checking that I haven't. I think I've covered everything on my list. Yeah. Okay. Well, if nobody's got any more questions, I think we could probably terminate the session at that point, and I'll see you, those of you who are coming back, at, is it 1 o'clock? Whatever, you should have an invitation, so you know, I'm sure it's 1 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to shut the session down. We're going to record the afternoon session for those of you who can't be there, and hopefully I'll set up another one next week, and we can go through it again. So you can attend as many as you like and listen to the recordings. It should be a way in for everyone. Okay? All right, I'm going to shut the session down. So bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.